Azeroth review. If this is your first time here, this is just where we basically going to talk about World of Warcraft, whatever you want to throw in there. Don't be shy, say hi. And that wasn't supposed to rhyme. And I suppose we could start off. I got a background here because it was, hi Kisasha, it was it's sort of now fairly certain that all those Horde players are going to get their wish, that Zandalari Paladins will be a thing. Just a case of if, not when. Or rather when, not if. Yes, that's right. So, probably not right at the start, but then again, no one's playing as Zandalari right at the start anyway, because you got to do all the achievements and the reps and everything. Hiya, Gaz. So yeah, so I got a little screenshot of my Paladin on the BfA Alpha. Because it's worth bearing in mind, of course, Blizzard... It's not that it was announced. See, this is the thing. Blizzard haven't said anything about Zandalari Paladins other than there's going to be Zandalari Paladins. They've not said anything. They haven't said what classes Zandalari Paladins will be. They haven't confirmed or denied anything. We're getting all our information from data mines things. Even on the Alpha, so I'm on the Alpha, higher Fraser Mahal as well. Even on the Alpha, you can't play Zandalari trolls at all. So, but there's, and I did just on a video, I've just literally put it out there, and there's a link to a Wowhead post, which has all the relevant bits of information. Basically, when you go to the southeasty zone, I've forgotten what it's called now, because I spend more time on Alliance than Horde, but where I am on that screenshot, or that zone anyway, there are prelates. Now, we've seen Zandalari prelates before. We saw them in Throne of Thunder, which do holy things. They cast holy spells, stuff like that. But they're sort of not priesty. They're more paladin-y, but they're not really paladins. They're just quite similar. I suppose a bit like the Sunwalkers, the Tauren abominations. So there's this saying, one of them sort of saying to you, yeah, we're these holy warriors, right? Yeah, but we haven't got any openings. In other words, no Zandalari Paladins. But then what happens is, without giving any spoilers away, you do this whole quest line, and at the end of it, they sort of fall out of favour, bit of naughtiness goes on. And then now they're saying, we don't know what to do now, it's all gone to shit. So there the opening is for Zandalari Paladins. But it might be that there's another twist to the tale before they actually come in. So, doesn't the lower that the prelates draw power from die during the quest line? Yeah, we're not going to go through all spoilery things, but sort of. Naughtiness ensues, we'll just say. Naughtiness ensues, and they are cut off from their version of the light. So in other words, what they'd be really grateful for is another path to the light. They love that. Well, who do we know that can show them a path to the light? Not the Taurens. No. But, I'm sure Liadrin will help out there. Actually, that'd be interesting. I haven't actually seen Liadrin yet in BfA. Maybe she's skulking about somewhere. Maybe that's it. Maybe, when it goes live, you're going to do that quest and it's all sort of there. And then a patch comes out, a little patch, 8.5, whatever, 8.05, something. And Liadrin makes her way over to Zandalari and goes, you used to use the light. It's gone a bit wrong. Well, I can help you out there. Well, isn't she in Orgrimmar with Sylvanas? Well, I don't know what's what at the moment in terms of the Alpha. I know that Nathanos is there. Where I'm facing is where Nathanos is. But, But anyway, so I think it's a case of Blizzard saying we need to. It wasn't me who even said this, first of all. It's someone who said it to me, and it makes total sense. Hi, Adlaze. It needs to be, the story needs to make sense. We can't just have Zandalari Paladins and that's all there is to it. They need to tell a story, and they're going to tell that story. But I don't think they're going to wait ages before Zandalari Paladins are a thing. What if they? I'm not sure that's how the Sunwell works. I'm not entirely sure how the Sunwell does work, but I don't think that's how the Sunwell works. But yeah, so that's one of those things. But you'll just have to play as something else, for the first few months, let's say, of BfA. It'll just have to be that. That's all there is to it. But so yeah, so in the alpha, I mean, we still haven't got any more news on Legion. We still don't know what's going on in Legion. We can guess, but we don't know. No idea. They're still not saying anything, are they, about what's coming? You know, every week that goes by and they still don't say something, I begin to wonder if actually all we're going to get is the pre-expansion patch. That would be... I still can't believe that they would do that. But we're not testing anything. And then pay for the ratio. Brilliant money-making strategy. That's what I think allied races are. Allied race. Do you know what? Do you know what I think allied races are actually for? I've said this before, haven't I? I can't remember where I said it, though. Did I say it here or did I say it in a stream? What I think allied races are for, because they're the sort of things that they can have, you know, and just bring out whenever they like. They can just have them whenever they like. Now, let's say you've got some allied races ready to go, and you can implement them whenever you want, because all you actually need is for there to be an achievement that has to be done, which is like a group of quests somewhere, just like there's been for all the other ones, and a reputation linked to them. That's all you actually need. So all Blizzard have to do is hold them back as soon as it looks like some people are unsubscribing, because, you know, these are the guys who subscribe for a month, let's say, or maybe a couple of months. Then they start to go, oh, okay, well, you know, I've done most of the content that I want to do. I'll wait a few more months, come on, and then binge on that content. So maybe what they do is when that starts to happen, they go, a couple of new allied races coming out in 2 weeks' time. And then they go, oh, I better say subscribed then. It can be as simple as that. That the allied races are a relatively quick and easy... It would be even easier if they didn't have these bloody racials, but it's a relatively quick and easy way to just, you know, put something in there that might make some people go, ooh. I don't think they're going to keep... I don't know, though. Because the thing is, with the allied races we have so far, they increase the number of character slots you can have on one realm. Not on the whole account, but on one realm by 4. Are they going to keep doing that when allied races come in? You know, are we going to just be able to suddenly, at some point, have all 50 of our characters? I want them to increase the number of characters you can have on an account. But, you know. To be fair, I don't have as much need for them as I used to. I used to create characters, hi Phil. I used to create characters to talk to people on other realms when I was recruiting. Because you'd see people on WoW Progress and they would say, oh, but they wouldn't give any contact details. So I'd have to create a character, go into their realm, kill a few boars, get a few copper, and then send them an in-game mail with my battle tag. But now WoW Progress has a little box to put your battle tag in, which then prompts people to go, oh, well, that's, you know, and then they put their battle tag in. So then you can, and actually I don't recruit anyway at the moment, but, you know, last time I did, I was able to just do that. Can't believe Zandalari Paladins is a thing. Well, they will be a thing. They're not a thing until Blizzard have confirmed it and said when it's going to, because I don't think it's going to happen right away. I think as soon as you unlock Zandalari, it's very possible. I'm not going to say probable because I don't know. Because remember, Blizzard have said nothing on the subject. They haven't denied Zandalari Paladins is going to be a thing. They haven't said anything. The only thing they've said about either Zandalari Paladins or Dark Iron Dwarves is that Dark Iron Dwarves will be Paladins. That's all they've said on the matter. They've said nothing else. Oh, they did talk about the different druid forms for Zandalari druids as well, didn't they? I think they did actually talk about that as well as it being sort of data mined. But if it doesn't become a thing in BfA... Oh, no, it will. It will be a thing in BfA. I'm certain of that. But I'm also fairly sure it would be a thing earlier rather than later. I don't think it's going to be a great, big, long, drawn-out process. I think it will be timely. Allied races are a funding tool for Classic. I don't know how much funding Classic's actually going to need, because we still don't know what their business model for it is. Are they just offering it free? You know, without even needing an extra subscription, or is it just a one-time payment like Diablo or something? I don't know. So I don't know how much funding it actually needs. But I don't think they do something special to fund Classic, Because I'm not one of these people who goes, oh, well, they earn enough money, they should do this. Because it's a business. Its job is to make as much money as it can. But they make a hell of a lot. The actual money they pump back into development is tiny. It's minuscule compared with what they actually generate. How much for one guy locked in a room? I think it's a few guys, but I don't think it's many. I don't think it needs to be many. They only need a relatively small team, really. I mean, I keep saying, you look at private servers don't have loads of people on it. And they don't have the benefit of being able to work at Blizzard. I mean, Blizzard, they're not going to have to, like, nick stuff. It's there for them. It's like, here you go. Oh, I could do with this. Well, here it is. But... well, absolutely. I mean, just World of Warcraft alone makes a silly amount of money. And then they've got other very popular titles as well. And that's just the Blizzard part of it. I don't understand, really. I'm not explaining this. I don't understand how Blizzard being bought ever become a thing. I suppose it was the usual thing when you're rapidly expanding and you don't have the money to do it. And rather than be able to get a loan for it, you just have to basically get bought out. But it baffles me how it ever became a thing that Blizzard were bought by anyone. But that's how these things work sometimes, isn't it? Classic will never be the same without the availability of add-ons. Who says they're not making add-ons available? I mean, they'll have to follow the same rules as they did during vanilla, but we'll actually get different add-ons because they're not going to stop add-ons. Add-ons were a thing in vanilla. Blizzard don't tend to just cough up games, though, do they? I mean, they tend to be quite careful about them. All their games basically are... ever since Warcraft... I know Warcraft technically wasn't their first game, and they weren't called Blizzard before anyway, were they? But ever since Warcraft, there hasn't been a game that's bombed, has there? Every single one of their games has been successful. I mean, it's incredible. Oh yeah, Vivendi. Well, that was the Vivendi. You know, that was. You know, that's when I was doing this when they were talking about that Warcraft 3 thing. That's the name that's on this. My first Warcraft 3 Reign of Chaos copy. You know, they've had hold of it for a long time before they got rid of it. Yeah, I mean it's. You know, other games, I mean, games companies, even good ones, occasionally put a foot wrong, don't they? They usually, you know, something will happen and something just will be a bit of a misstep. And Blizzard don't seem to have done that. Now, whether that's because they've got the financial clout when something's not going well, for example, Project Titan, that they've got the financial clout to just pull the plug and go, no, it's not up to our standard. Reuse what assets we can, but no. I don't know if that's it, and whereas maybe some other studios, when they get to a certain point, they're sort of committed and it has to come out. I don't know, but you know, they have never gone wrong. All you know is you'd never heal classic since they broke the auto targeting and spell rank choosing add-on. So they should. It's outrageous, outrageous. Yes, there was an add-on, absolutely disgraceful. I didn't even know about it until they were getting rid of it. There was an add-on where you just basically pressed one button and it just automatically picked people to heal and automatically used what it thought was an appropriate rank. What? Who's gonna just stood in the middle of a room pressing boom, boom, boom? What? That's not raiding. That's disgraceful. They had another thing as well as part of an add-on package, which I did have, because I had CT Raid Assist. There was Aura and there was CT Raid Assist as two like raiding add-ons. I don't think you had them both. I think they crossover. But I had CT Raid Assist. And I think there was one feature in it which was also removed after I'd only just started raiding, really, or not long after, which was, I think, what was it called? Can't remember. Emergency monitor or something. But basically, if you were casting a heal and while you were casting it, someone else healed them so their health was alright, it auto-cancelled it. They removed that ability as well, because that's, again, it's something that you're not making a decision about. It's fine to have add-ons that give you information. Like, there was an add-on, I don't know whether you can still get this or if it's even useful. There was an add-on that was useful for healing, that with your target, it would tell you what other heals or friendly spells were being cast on them. So if let's say their health wasn't dire, and you saw that someone was in the middle of casting a heal on them, you wouldn't bother to heal them. You'd go to your next target and heal them. Now, that's information. You're making a decision. Whereas something that automatically does something for you, and you're not making the decision to do it, yeah, that's wrong. That shouldn't be there. Decursive, yeah, I didn't use that either. I refused to use that. It was not difficult just to click on a name and press 6. I don't know what the problem with that was. Actually, did I use 6 then? I think I've always used 6 for it. Oh no. I'll have to check. Although the oldest video I still have is my first Kel'Thas kill, that's TBC. But yeah, I don't understand these things. It was totally unnecessary as well. It was not difficult to cleanse. It really wasn't. You know, as long as you had, like, I started CTRA, so you could, you know, obviously you don't want to use, you can't do it with, you know, Blizzard standard UI, blimey. But, you know, you had a nice little grouping of the raid in front of you. You could see, you know, who was diseased or poisoned or whatever else you could get off them. Disease and poisons in my case. And that was it. But no, but what will happen inevitably, of course, is with, you know, when Classic comes out, there'll be the same rules for add-ons. So some of the add-ons you could have then, you know, that you can't now, they'll be fine, and vice versa. But they're not just going to roll out the same add-ons, which is again another thing. So if people are playing it for nostalgia and they remember a particular add-on, well, people are surely going to make better add-ons, or at least flashier add-ons. So I'd be interested to see what sort of add-ons are going to be produced. But there'll be no one who can sort of say, oh, we don't need add-ons, because, you know, you'll use them either way. You know, like things, because there were quite a lot of things on timers still. But until later on, people didn't really make add-ons. Like, bigwigs existed, but I didn't come across it until Nax. And the only reason I came across it in Nax was we were on Thaddeus, and some people couldn't work out whether to go left or right. And so the raid leader eventually got sick of it all and made everyone get this add-on that basically told you, put an arrow on your screen which bloody way to go. And the thing is, Thaddeus was quite a bad fight for people DCing. There was lots of things going on. It used to make people's games crash. And I was always fine with that. But as soon as I installed this add-on, then it started doing it. So I thought, well, shit, I just uninstalled the add-on and then pretended I was using it because I knew which way to go. Like, I healed. I did healing and blessings, I'll have you know. Also, the blessings were changed partway through vanilla anyway to be much more sensible. But I did the 40 blessings and healing as well. Because you see, there was a thing that Paladins had called, what was it called? Blessing of Light, I think it was. So you put Blessing of Light on everyone, and it meant they took extra healing from your Flash of Light and Holy Light. So that meant you could spend a couple of minutes buffing everyone, and within the 3 minutes that you had before you had to start the whole process again, you could kick out loads of healing. Loads of healing. Flash of Light, everyone. But, you know, it was... when was it now? It was patch 1.9, I think. Where they brought out the Greater Blessings, where, you know, you put it on... It needed a token, it needed a symbol of kings. But you put it on, say, a warrior, and all the warriors would get that same blessing. So then it was easy. You only had to buff 8 times every 50, and they lasted at least 15 minutes, those as well. Sure, healers are going to love healing classic. I don't see why, it's easy. It was a piece of piss. It was so easy. Compared with, you know, what you've got now, the tools you've got now is a piece of cake. It was, you know, there were very few healing spells. You didn't have a great range of spells to use. And it was fairly straightforward how to use them. The most important thing as a healer was positioning and actually being aware of the raid, not staring at your raid frames all the time. Obviously, you needed to be able to check them, but actually have a feeling for where everyone was and what they were like. Because if you got to know your raiders, you would know which ones are going to step in the fire and which ones are going to move out of it. And then you could sort of be a bit, you know, predictive in that sense. And, of course, make sure so you don't crash your mana out. Be a bit flexible with a few little ranks of healing. So you don't need the full range of them. But, you know, just to give you more healing spells, basically. You'd use a different... I mean, Flash of Light, you could Flash of Light all day long. So you use the max rank of that. But Holy Light, you'd use the max rank one and like a middle rank one. And then it was okay. Because you didn't really have... I mean, as a Paladin, you didn't even have cooldowns. We didn't get any cooldowns until TBC. So you had Flash of Light, Holy Light, Lay on Hands, but that burnt all your mana, so you didn't use that. Unless you knew someone was going to die and that person was important. And it's very difficult to know someone's going to die, and it's almost no one in the raid is that important that it's worth blowing all your mana for. Unless someone was going to give you an Innovate. But and then you got Holy Shock if you were holy, which, you know, I wasn't to begin with. Once you had to factor in regen for healers, having to have 3 or 4 extraordinary spells, there's a lot to manage. Well, I didn't think so. I mean, I only played as a Paladin, which may have had the fewest heals, but I don't think anyone had loads of heals. Because there wasn't anything else to do. It's not like... I mean, actually, of all the healers, if there was anyone who, when things were getting a bit tense, you would go to DPS, it would be the Paladins. But even then, you didn't have many things to use. You just sealed and hit the thing. Did it have a lot, though? Just hots. Just keep hots on people. Because that was the thing as well. Because you had so many of it, you had 5 of each class. So that was 5 druids. There was no need for them to do any direct healing. So you could forget about your direct healing spells. What good were they? You know, in a dungeon maybe, but in a raid, you just put the hots on. Let the paladins do the direct heals, and let the priests do the shielding and the twiddly bits. Oh, well, leveling, yes, okay. Leveling as a healer. Yeah. They'll probably want a friend. Healers, the thing is, though, healers will find friends, though, because who wouldn't want to run around killing mobs? Like, all you need to do as a healer is find a warrior or a rogue, right? Follow them, they'll kill all the stuff for you, quest with them, they'll kill all the stuff with you, and you just heal them. They'll be delighted with that. Absolutely delighted. I don't know. Well, they wouldn't have got much benefit from Healing Touch unless it gives back mana if I was about, because I did not allow anyone to have daylight in their health bar. Because Paladins were very, very good at that. Everyone was on full health all the time. And if they weren't, then there was a flash of light heading their way. And you could cast it forever. Never had mana problems as a Paladin, ever. It was not possible. If I even saw 20% of my health went, I took a mana pot. And that very rarely happened. And you would still end up doing more healing than most others. Because again, that Blessing of Light was, you know, without Blessing of Light, you could do okay healing. And then with Blessing of Light, forget it. It was ridiculous what you would do. And Holy Shock was only something you did if you had to be on the move, because you had to stand still. But, you know, we shall see what happens when people actually do get into Classic. I just think that communities are better set up now. I don't think healers will have as big a problem leveling, because There's more communities there. There'll be people already on Discords and stuff like that. And they'll just arrange to quest with other people. Because there's no end of glass cannon DPS that would love to have a healer. Just, you know, their little pocket healer. Certainly more informed now, definitely. The only queries will be when it launches what it's going to be like. I wonder if there'll be a beta. You know, just so that they can get some feedback on have they pitched it at the right level. Because you talk about Paladin Blessings, and because there were the different modes. There was the Paladin Blessings, the original format, which is why you pressed it and it works on one person and lasted for 5 minutes. I don't know whose bloody idea that was, but that was a thing. 5 minutes. And then they changed it, so you had your greater blessings as well. You could have your normal blessings. You could have your greater blessings. They lasted longer. And you put it on one person, and it buffed everyone else of the same class. So there were 8. Well, there were 9 classes, with 8 for each faction. So you put it on 8 people, and with a symbol of kings with it, and then that was it. That was done. They needed re-blessing when they died, though. Their blessings didn't remain when they died. One issue might be, though, are people prepared? Let's say people in a guild in World of Warcraft want to do like a classic guild as well. Either the Paladins are not going to get to play Paladins, or the Shaman are not going to get to play Shaman. And the Death Knights, Monks, and Demon Hunters are definitely not going to get to play those. Because, yes, the Paladins were purely Alliance, and Shamans were purely Horde. Plus, Alliance got... I mean, as Paladins, we got Blessing of Salvation, which is very nice. But also, Dwarf Priest got Fear Ward, which actually shouldn't have really been needed, should it? I think it was more for the Priest itself, because Warriors were your main tanks, and they could stance a predictable fear off. I think on a Nixia, we had a Dwarf Priest who used to just put it on himself, so that he could carry on healing the tank, while everyone else was feared and going all over the place. But you could also use it on a warrior that wasn't very good at timing their stance change. Because they had to change it to Berserker stance, didn't they, to be immune to fear. But you wouldn't want to stay in Berserker stance because you take a load of extra damage. As I recall, anyway. First 48 hours service will be down half the time? Maybe not. Like, Blizzard, you know, they've obviously made such mistakes in the past. I'm not sure that they'd want to repeat it. It should be, I don't know. I mean, again, it depends on the business model. You know, it should be, in theory, predictable how many people would want to go on it. Because that should be determined by either how many copies of the game they've sold, or how many subscriptions of, you know, I don't know. Do I know the toy Personal Spotlight? Vaguely. Is it quite an old one? I seem to remember something like that. I know where I am as a melee. I'm between the health bars. Around all my stuff. You just need to know. Because your position in the screen never changes. So you just need to know where on the screen you are. You don't need to actually see yourself. Oh yeah, well that's true, the sharding. Well, we'll see. At the end of the day, you know, if the servers are unstable, then people can hardly complain because that's the classic experience. That's how it was. You know. When the whole raid stacks, you lose yourself. Well, you can do, but it doesn't matter. I don't need to see myself. I just need to know where I am on the screen. Hi, Edgy. There's quite enough spell effects going on for my liking. I'd better get up the thing. Now is sometimes round about the time when Blizzard starts saying things. The only things they've had to say in the last day or so, though, have been to do with PvP, which I'm not that bothered about. And it's the same today, isn't it? Battleground preview, Brawl on the Seething Shore. Not interested in that. And there were some PvP hotfixes. A Zandalari Paladin, there's no such thing at the moment. And even if there were, we can't play Zandalari anything. But this is the god-awful armour set you get in the first zone. It's absolutely horrendous. This is why I don't like troll stuff. I have nothing against trolls as a race, as a playable race. But I do not like the style of their stuff. So I don't like troll. I quite liked Zul'Gurub just because Zul'Gurub was new and fun. But I don't like troll dungeons or raids, you know, when it's troll themed, because I know, mind you, I suppose it doesn't matter now, but I know instantly I'm going to have to transmog whatever I get. The 4 extra talents you get if you keep PvP enabled in BfA. No, it's not happening. If I'm out in the wild, I don't need talents. I just need to be not bothered. Do I think Blizz will admit that without the artifact weapon, DPS is not going to be balanced at all? Well, they basically already have admitted that. By making... I mean, I don't know. Obviously, I'm not keeping my finger on the pulse of all the different classes and specs. Because I don't have time. But there were massive changes to Retribution Paladin talents. And a couple of changes to baseline abilities. This last week on Friday, was it? Was it Friday or was it Thursday? Can't remember. But last week, that is basically an admission that their original plan was not going to work. So the same will apply to other classes and specs, of course. So they have basically already admitted that you can't just take away the artifact weapon and it's all good. It might just be that everyone agrees to not attack one another and just profit from the extra talents to kill stuff 30% faster. No. Behave yourself. Most people don't attack each other anyway, to be fair. You know, most people are absolutely fine. It's just the odd one. But there always seems to be an odd one here or there. I mean, it's always fine on my... Well, it's not always fine. It's annoying. But it's sometimes fine on my main. Because... One, I can usually just beat them up. The number of people who will pick on you without even targeting you and looking at your health first. You know, because some of these people, when they attack me, I kill them within 2 seconds. And I'm like, you must have no health at all. And you're the one who's attacked me. Did you not look at my health and go, oh, it's 4 times as much as mine. Maybe I will struggle. But no. And then the second reason is I'm a paladin. Worst comes to worst, if I don't fancy my chances, I will just bubble and Hearthstone away. As long as there isn't a priest there, because priests cause trouble. Which is an outrage, by the way. It's an absolute outrage. I remember when they brought in Mass Dispel and then found out it could dispel bubble. I was fuming. Absolutely furious I was. What baffles you is that someone thought it would have been fine. I don't know what goes through some people's heads. You know. If I was going to try and gank someone, I would choose my target carefully. It's a bit like a mugger. You know, a mugger doesn't just pick on someone random that walks around the corner. They assess who they're going to mug. Because they don't want to smack in the mouth. See what the talents end up being like. Yes, well, there are going to be changes again. I don't know that it's going to be in the next alpha build, but I do know that there's going to be another pass on them with a couple of the details. So it's, you know, and you would know anyway, even without knowing anything specific. You sort of know at this point, it's 6 months away. Of course, they're going to chop and change them. I just hope that it's in a methodical way. What I fear, and I hope this is not true, I've got every faith it's not true, but it might be, is that they've just randomly thrown those talents where they have, just to see what people do with them, and then they'll randomly change them again, see what people's reactions are. You know, it might be that they're not actually carefully considering where they're putting their talents. They might just be doing it randomly at the moment with the aim of considering it in more care, you know, to future date. But it is a good, you know, it's a good sign, and it's a clear sign that, I mean, we knew anyway, but it is a clear sign that the class design team that's working on BfA is not the same class design team that worked on Legion. I mean, we knew that anyway, because we know that 2 key people are no longer on World. They're still at Blizzard, but they're not on World of Warcraft. Did I take logs during dungeons? I did, yes, but I've only posted the last dungeon I did, because by the time I remembered I'd done a log of the other dungeon, they'd already changed all the abilities, so it didn't seem any point. So I did a video with just some you know, some edited highlights, so to speak, of the Freehold dungeon I did, and I posted the logs in the description there. But there was when I first looked at the logs, I thought, bloody hell. I mean, you don't expect it to be, because you know it's not balanced anyway, but there was a BM hunter there who was doing like twice my damage. I thought, what the hell? Surely it can't be that. I know they're not looking at tuning just yet, but surely it can't be that bad. Because I'd played the BM Hunter as well. I'd done a bit of levelling on it. And I thought to myself, it's not stronger than my Paladin. And then it turned out that what this Hunter had done is they'd managed to snag themselves some Legion enchants and Legion potions, which I still don't know quite how they did it. But I have an inkling. But the problem with that is, there's a big stat squish in BfA, but the Legion stuff hasn't been, like the Legion potions and enchants, sorry, haven't been squished. So, you know, he was using stuff that just gives you ridiculous stats, basically. The unsquished stuff, which was giving him massive amounts. No, the BM would have been fine. If they hadn't been using those, it would have been fine. And those things will, of course, get squished. They just haven't squished them on the alpha. Because they don't intend us to use them. But apparently there's a way to get them. What's the quote on my shirt? It says, in my defense, I wasn't left unsupervised. Well, let me have. I've forgotten where we are, actually, in terms of the squish. I know that I've got about 20,000 health, which is a bit of a climb down from, you know, millions. I'll have to log into the game now to remember what my primary stats were. But, yeah, it's... because, you know, it's a huge squish, which is needed, of course. Oh, no. Oh! They've taken the realms down. Are they pushing another build? They're pushing another build. Because both realms are down. It's not accidental. And last time there was no warning about it either. Oh, there's another build going up. Interesting. This is less than a week after the last one, definitely. This is early. Just gonna... let's have a quick look at that. You fear the rates will increase as much as in Legion before we know back to Legion levels. Not necessarily this time, to be fair, because Blizzard did explain, and they were quite right, when they did the squish last time, they didn't squish item level. Now, there's still something else they haven't squished, which would be it'd be a lot easier if they did squish it. They haven't squished actual level. So, but squishing item level as well as stats will actually give it a little bit more legs, I think. I mean, there's still obviously come a point, you know, inflation is still going to be a thing. But, no, I think it's sort of okay. So, but I would have preferred it if they'd have squished levels as well. Just sort that out. And they had the perfect opportunity with zone scaling. But they didn't do it. But there you go. At lower levels, there's absolutely no difference in stats for some levels, like piece of gear. Yes, level 20, 22 gear. Yeah, I've noticed that. When I was, obviously, since I've got the alpha, I haven't really been doing any leveling. But when I was leveling, there was, I think it was on the priest, I noticed I got a quest reward for something that was higher item level than what I had. They were both green quality, by the way, so the quality had nothing to do with it. I'm not sure, you know. But anyway, the quality was nothing to do with it. They were both green quest rewards. And I know that the gear I started off with on my Void Elf was better than its item level suggested. But it wasn't that either that I was comparing it to. And the higher item level stuff just wasn't as good. So there is some... which was weird. So there is some funniness with it. Do I think Blizzard is irked about all the data mining and everything? Not everything, no. I was actually, I mean, that was one of the questions I was basically getting across with that interview with Peculiar. That it's a double-edged sword, and I think Blizzard probably see it as a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it does them good that people do find out some stuff, because then that because you know the community generates hype for them, whereas there are things that obviously they would prefer we didn't find out about. So sometimes, yeah, it's a bit of a... And sometimes they really come down on it as well. Like, for example, the classic example in Legion was the cinematic at the end of Nighthold was, you know, data mined and posted on YouTube and everything. And Blizzard really didn't want that, and they went to, oh, can you take it down because we don't want that. To which they agreed, of course, because they want a good working relationship with them. But, yeah, so sometimes... But most of the time, they understand it's a thing. And they actually, I think, these days just use it to their advantage. So sometimes they'll put something in just to generate some discussion, I think. I think they actually do deliberately use it to their advantage now. Which is a much more sensible way of looking at it. Because if you're going to allow people to, you know, data mine stuff, then you should accept that they're going to read things into it. So I think they're more comfortable with it now. With it, wish they would squish character level, but fear they would just increase the amount of XP to earn a level roughly the same amount of time. Well, I mean, time is another thing that you'll know I don't like. I think it takes too long. But even if they did that, it would still be better. You know, fewer levels would surely make it easier and less intimidating for new players. So, game on end. You've been power leveling through dungeons, so you run the same ones repeatedly. So you get the same boss drops over and over at higher and higher item levels. Sometimes for almost 10 levels, it's the same stats. Well, there you go. I mean, it doesn't surprise me in many ways, because when you squish it down that much, you're trying to squish down 120 levels, because that's what we're going to have soon. And they're not linear levels either. You know, they're not at all linear. So it's inevitable, really, the stuff in vanilla. I mean, that's why it should just be fewer levels. But yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all that you've got things that are 10 levels separating them. And it's basically the same. And you wouldn't really notice even if the damage is basically the same, because it's all scaled anyway. So it's a very different experience leveling with scaling. I think on balance it is a better experience. I mean, the obvious drawback is always this: you never really feel more powerful. Whereas at least you're getting full experience from it, so that you know, the benefit outweighs the cost for me. I think it probably does for most people as well. If the stats don't go up, you actually get weaker. Well, this is true. I think you have to hope that enough stats go up, and particularly your character stats go up, to make it feel okay. Plus, of course, the extra abilities you get. I mean, your abilities become more powerful regardless of the stats you're getting on your gear, don't they? Sort of. I mean, because your primary stats are going up, because you just get extra primary stats with each level. But it can go out of kilter if it doesn't keep roughly in step. But then it could also be argued, or if you say a particular item isn't very much different with 10 levels difference, it might well be that the mobs... I mean, I know there's been some funny things with mobs that haven't scaled properly, because that's all part of the scaling on mobs. If you're going to not have gear scale up very much over the next 10 levels, then you have to do the same with the mobs as well, don't you? Which is why the whole thing's just an illusion with levels, so they should just truncate it. I'm not sure exactly how long I think it should take to get to level cap, but a damn sight less time than it takes at the moment, I think. And if everything's scaled as well, and I know there were plenty of people that liked what Blizzard did in terms of scale, you know, doing it in blocks, like 2 expansions at a time. But I'd have scaled everything, and then that would have allowed you, if you're the sort of person that just enjoys the questing, you can just keep doing that. Like in Elder Scrolls Online, for example, on my main character, I'm at level cap for, you know, the more levels. But I just still go around questing in zones. I just still do the normal stuff that I would do if I was still leveling, because that's enjoyable, especially when you do it on a casual basis, and people would still be allowed to do that. Hi guys, are you the only one concerned about the island expedition systems? Seems to be a system that will favour bringing the best classes since it's only 3 people. There is always a danger with that. I suppose, I think it's less of a danger than with dungeons, because it comes down to, because we've had 3-player scenarios before in MOP, and the way it seemed to work, as I recall, someone fancied doing them, they would just ask for 2 other people. So, you know, at the time, no one was really, oh, we could really do with a rogue or a warlock or something like that. It was just you took 3 people. Now, the aim will be that that same thing happens with the islands. And for majority of people, you know, that should be how it works. You know, I think there's a greater concern with, say, Mythic Plus dungeons in terms of class balance. Especially with the class buffs coming. I still haven't done the video where I, you know, moan about that, but the class buffs are the greatest threat to, you know, certain classes for certain things. But yeah, the islands may well be just one of those things. I suppose it depends how competitive it is. But again, remember what Blizzard said. They've tasked their class design team with making sure that all utility is useful. That all utility is useful. Now, I look at that as a raider and go, well, you're not going to, are you? But it could be argued that what they're really thinking of is these islands and not raiding, right? They're clear. They've shown time and time again, and even the current crop have shown that they're fine with certain classes and specs being really good in raiding and not others. But when it comes to the islands, it will be a massive own goal if any classes are not really required. In the same way as it was with Mythic Plus dungeons. So Mythic Plus dungeons, what did you have? You had Shadow Priests and Rogues that were not really all that desirable in the early part of Legion, if I remember rightly. Changed, of course, changed. But, you know, at that point, it wasn't great to have those. I assume that's something they don't want repeated for the islands. Because I'm not sure whether... Because I think that's their main content. I know you've got the war fronts as well. But obviously the war fronts are not something you do all the time. Whereas the islands are supposed to be. Hopefully not all the time. I would really hate it if there's another grind related to Azeroth in the same way there was AP. But I do fear it. I do think it might be a thing. I'm not sure what I would have to... I'm not sure what I would think of that, really. But there's still no more details. I mean, I'm getting Azeroth now in the beta. Not able to use it. It's just... It's not going anywhere. It's not going into a currency thing. It's not going into my bags. It's just disappearing into the ether. But yeah, I mean, there's lots of things. Rewards-wise, yes, indeed. We don't really know exactly what it's going to give us. Blizzard themselves at BlizzCon said that they didn't exactly know how it was all going to work. They just, you know, it was going to be a thing, and they were going to flesh out the details through testing. But of course, at the moment, it's not available for testing, so we need to wait until it is. But I am really curious now, because let me just say, it's very unusual because there's 2 alpha realms, and it's very unusual for them both to be down unless they're pushing a build. So I'm guessing that's what they're doing. Yeah, they are down. So maybe that's what's coming next. Maybe there's some Azeroth stuff coming, because it's less than a week since the last one. Oh yeah, that's a comment someone's put on that video actually. That might put people's backs up. Do you remember in Legion? So in Legion, you had on the Broken Shore the quest with Anduin, where, you know, he picks up his father's sword and all the rest of it. And of course, Alliance players got a nice healthy amount of AP from that quest. And all the Horde players went mad. And then, you know, they had to be reminded that they had their quest at the start where Sylvanas set fire to Vol'jin. There might be a similar thing. I've just remembered with these Zandalari Paladins. If there is a scenario that specifically tells the story of Zandalari Paladins, it might get Alliance players doing the same thing. So look, Blizzard has given up. That's it. They're closing up shop. Alpha was the first to go. It's just a matter of time. No, I don't think so. I think they're just pushing a new build. I bet their integration with the selfie function, along with being able to log into Twitter in-game. Well, I mean, yeah, there is more selfie stuff coming in BfA. There are, which I can't look up again now because obviously the realms are down, but there are achievements for the selfie camera for BfA. Ironically, though, I don't have the selfie camera in BfA. I don't know why. Because when I open my character's toy box, there's some toys in it, but the selfie camera is not one of them. I can't even remember how I got it. I can't remember what you do to get the selfie camera. I got it so long ago. Got it in WOD. Don't remember. I still have no idea what 2 allied races Alliance get in. Horde does not have Vulpera. They're not an allied race. I think it very likely that the Alliance, I know they haven't said, but I think it's very likely that the Alliance allied race would just be Kulturan humans. Now, they're different enough, because you've got to ask yourself, obviously they've improved the graphics on NPCs and stuff in BfA, sure. But the Kulturan humans have a very specific style, which is very different to all the other humans. That has surely got to be because it's intended as an allied race. In other words, it had to be different enough from the Eastern Kingdom's humans. Oh, was it a garrison mission? There must be another way to get it then now, I guess. I don't know. I'll have to look it up. Did I see the new announcement about the Vulpara? No, there is no new announcement. You're just trying to troll me again Just like last week, people tried to troll me about Alliance Orcs. I didn't believe it then, and I'm not believing it now. You hope they remove the mission table. I think they said, but I can't remember where. So I might be making it up, but I think they said they were doing. I think they said it's not going to be in BfA. The only sort of anything like that that I've seen, you know how on the order hall tape, you know, the mission table, as well as missions, you've got the thing when you were leveling up, you had a thing that where you could pick which zone you wanted to do next, and it would give you a starter quest for that zone. That's in, but nothing with missions. And I'm pretty sure they said there would be no missions. But I can't be 100% because I cannot distinctly remember them saying it. I can't remember where they said it. So I could just be making that up. I'm pretty sure there isn't. There is a table where you get to pick which zone to get. But that's not the same as a mission table. But I can't check right now. Because no realms. Oh no. Hang on, I'm about to lose sound. Shit. Hold on. You'll have to check that you can still hear the sound. I clicked on my voice meter banana accidentally, fat fingered. Totally legit. Yeah, becoming paladins. You asked your cat, he confirmed it. Yeah, well, now that I know you're lying, because cats always lie. But there's not going to be any Vulpara playable races of any kind. You know. They're just... Oh, excuse me. They're just pirates. I haven't even seen that many of them. Yes. But, no, I think cults around humans. I just think it's too obvious a thing to do. Oh, do you know what as well? I never went back to do that annoying quest. On Saturday, I was streaming some alpha. And there was a super annoying quest to do. And the problem is, on alpha, you never know if maybe it's impossible because of something. And you had to climb up a building to rescue a cat. And at the end of it, I just got sick. I said, I'll do it later. I couldn't do it. I spent ages on it, couldn't do it. And, but then I was thinking to myself, if that cat wanted to come down, it could easily get down. Why am I actually trying to climb this building to save a cat that knows how to look after itself? It won't die. You know, if it realises no one's going to save it, it will just climb down. They are in the unreleased horde zone. Well, so I mean, I've seen a couple of them, but just not that many. So that's where they mostly are, is it? Okay. Serious question: what classes or faction could ethereals be? I don't think they could be anything. I know goblins are quite money grubbing, and you know, but with ethereals, I don't think they. I don't think they'd ally themselves with any faction. It wouldn't be in their interest to do so. Also, they're only males or no females. I'm not sure gender's a thing at all for ethereals as far as I know. So, I mean, by definition, if there are no females, then there can be no males either, because gender doesn't mean anything. I know that it tends to be male actors that voice them. And they have male titles. You know, like the Prince guy in Manitou. No. Was it Manitooms? I think it was. But, yeah, I just think they're genderless. Do I think they're going to expand upon the alternative progression for characters at max level? Kind of like the Nether Crucible. Oh my god, no. Please no. But more in-depth and actually interesting. The alternative progression in BfA is the Azerite armor. And they've said that that's going to be there all the way through the expansion. So that's what they've got for us. Whether they introduce any other devices, such as the Netherlight Crucible, I hope not. But yeah, so Azerite armor is supposed to be the thing. Yeah. I mean, we know that Azerite armor doesn't Titan Forge. So it could well be that the simple way that they make it relevant all the way through the expansion is because obviously if you get some Azerite armor early on, and it looks very much like they want us to have Azerite armor right from the start while we're leveling, because it's very noticeable that you don't get, unless it's just an oversight at the moment. It's particularly noticeable in the Alliance because I've done like quite a lot of, I've done many more Alliance quests than Horde quests now, but I'm still wearing my original helm, chest and shoulders, which are just the 3 slots that Azerite armor covers. So in other words, there is a significant lacking, not a complete lacking, but a significant lacking of shoulder, chest and helm quest rewards, which strongly suggests we're not supposed to get those items from quests, which further suggests that at some point we're going to get a full set of Azerite armor basically as soon as we start leveling, I think. But I mean, the thing is, in Alpha isn't of course just an early version of the game. They give us stuff to test, and it's always in a weird order. The order you test stuff on sort of changes all the time. Like for example, in the first week that I was in, which was the second week of Alpha, on Alliance side, I could do the starter quest, but I couldn't do it on the Horde side. But now I haven't tried to do it since the last build, but I think there's people said that you can't do it anymore. Now I don't know whether that's true because I didn't try, but it seems to suggest maybe they took it out to change it or for whatever other reason. Maybe it'll go back in with this build. I'm going to actually exit out of BattleNet and just see if it starts downloading something. Because as soon as it does, of course, then Wowhead and MMO Champion will immediately be on to data mine stuff. But no, they're not actually. There's nothing downloading yet. They've just taken the realms off, presumably in preparation for it. What time is it now in America? Be about lunchtime, about midday. In California specifically, sorry. So let's have a look. They should put 1 set of Azerite armor to vendor once they release all the zones so you can hit 120. They won't need to. Because if we get them at level 110, just like we got our artifact weapons at level 100, they won't need to have them on a vendor. They'll just be there. Yes, noon in California. So it might well be that they're going to have lunch and then they'll put it up in the afternoon. Which, from my point of view, will be around about when I'm ready to go to bed. I'm trying to think what happened last time. Because last time they pushed the build, it was... What was it now? Yes, it was Thursday. Because I remember I had to go to bed because I had to get up for work. So it's Thursday. But I just extended the stream a couple of hours. Yeah, but Blizzard aren't in Florida. 3 PM, though. It's not that... Really? In Florida? Okay. Oh, I suppose, yeah. All right. Oh, no, that's fine. Yeah. 5 hours behind, I suppose. Makes sense. Thought, yeah. So there's 4 time zones, are there, in continental United States? It just means they should be in the game by the time people are able to hit 120. Well, I mean, the way it looks now, it seems certain. Obviously, things can change, but there must be a it's a hell of a coincidence that, you know, I've changed every other slot multiple times. You know, weapons, other armor slots, necks, rings, trinkets. So there's obviously been no shortage of those from doing quests. And yet I'm still wearing my item level 185 or whatever it was. I can't remember now. Helm, shoulders and chest. So, yeah, there must be a reason they're not giving them as quest rewards. In much the same way you didn't get weapons as quest rewards in Legion. But again, all the quests that are going to involve doing all that, because it's not available for testing yet. It's just not there. Maybe it will be there today. No doubt they'll put it up just as I go to bed, like they often do. And maybe they won't. It might actually, I suppose, go up early enough. I mean, they've brought the realm. I'm trying to think when they brought the realms down before as well. Doesn't necessarily follow that it'll be the same time frame. If it's a larger patch, for example, because it's got a load of stuff. I mean, there has been some Azerite stuff data mined. It's just not available yet. Although nothing interesting. It's all just passive buffs to certain abilities. Wonder with people getting the Super Titan Forged Sword or Scythe, if they're going to actually be useful at the start of BfA when we get rid of AP weapons. Could well be. Could well be. I mean, I did a video yesterday on what I think would happen to artifact weapons, which was largely based on just what I think sensible. Because we don't know a lot. But if they make artifact weapons completely useless, then yes, you would think then the Scythe, for example, for those lucky enough to get it, would be a pretty good option. I mean, I don't think it's a coincidence that there are weapon drops from Antorus. I don't think that's a coincidence. I know we've had the odd one in various bits of Legion as well, but there's specifically two. There's weapons that drop off the last two bosses. I know it's only for certain classes as well, which is again why I think that there's, you know, this is why I was thinking, surely there's going to be a small raid, and one of the rewards from that small raid will be weapons, which at the moment are just there for cosmetic purposes, but might actually be of serious use. But that's the thing, Kisasha. I was thinking there'd be more content that rewards weapons. But it looks like it's not going to be from a raid if it is. I mean, of course, there's a pre-expansion patch. Pre-expansion patch, they can reward whatever that. Like the Legion pre-expansion patch, we had those invasions, and you could get a full set of gear for your alt. You could get a full set of decent gear, really. Not obviously to Raider standard, but for someone who's just about to start leveling, and you were in crap gear, pretty good, wasn't it? And there's bound to be an event like that again, very similar to it. You know, they said that they actually really liked that technology, and what sort of, you know, would it just be straight up invasions again? And if it was invasions of what, little old god spawns, something like that, that would be a bit boring. I think they've done that. I'm not sure. But they'll do something where randomly in various zones around Azeroth, things happen. Little void spawn or something. You go there, kick the heads in, and get some either tokens or a random chest of you know, snake people. Oh yeah, the snake people are really weird. Only 880 or whatever. Are they? I thought they were higher than that. The Herald of Cthulhu. Well, I mean, this is what I'm thinking. It's very likely to take the form of, because we've had these. I mean, it's not even like Legion was the first time to do this. It's not unusual to have these little events where you get random things, random encounters spawning in different zones. And it wouldn't surprise me if they did the same thing for BfA pre-patch and get yourself some stuff there. But I just think that it would just make more sense to remove all the traits off the artifact weapon. That's the draining of its power. But you still have the artifact weapon as a weapon of decent item level. It means that if you carry on raiding for that last month, that relics, you don't have to remove relics from the loot table. Relics can still be a thing. And the other thing is, I should have mentioned on the video, I didn't really think about it. You have to bear in mind that people leveling up through Legion are going to... The quests are still going to be there for artifact weapons. You're still going to get artifact weapons. You're still going to get your Ashbringer or your Doomhammer or one of the other 34 completely made up weapons. So why not? It's just an obvious thing to do for me. It's just so obvious that you just drain all the traits off it. And it's just a weapon. Maybe with Concordance still in it. And that's it. Pre-expansion has got to be AQ 20 or 40 in Silithus. it could be AQ20. It wouldn't be impossible. As made up as Void Elves. Well, everything's made up in a point, but, you know, specifically, but Void Elves, to be fair, were not supposed to have existed some time ago, whereas the 36 so-called artifact weapons were all supposed to be seriously powerful, almost mythical in some cases, weapons, whereas in reality, there was the Ashbringer and there was the Doomhammer, and that was it. I can't swear, maybe the odd one had some obscure reference in some previous lore, possibly. But by and large, I think they just made them up. You wish Bleed had the tech to make NPCs call us by our characters' names. Well, calling us hero all the time sucks. Well, but they'd pronounce it wrong, wouldn't they? We'd have to have arguments about how it's pronounced. Don't need any more of those. "10 seconds after you pick it up, Thrall says, hey, you better... Oh, yeah. The Doomhammer was a complete shambles. I mean, at least with the Ashbringer, you had to pry it from the cold, dead fingers of its previous occupant. All right, granted, he was still technically alive and he sort of gave it to you. But, you know, Thrall there just... You know, Thrall should have said, oh, great, you've got the Doomhammer. That's mine, thank you very much. But no, he just sat there, you know, like an idiot, going, oh, well, it was nice while it lasted. Which is, and now, see, the thing is, if they just wanted to quietly write him out of the game, then it would have just been crap writing, but, you know, it would have served its purpose. But they're bringing him back. He's going to have a role to play in BfA, which is like, so hang on a minute, is he a useless shaman now or not? And also, what's he going to be carrying? Because I've knackered his Doomhammer, or the shaman players have knackered his Doomhammer. So, you know, it's like he gave us he allowed us to use the Doomhammer, and we've broken it. Yes, he's going to be Vol'jin's urn carrier, but I don't think he's going to swing around that urn as a weapon. Let's have a look. Do you all play in-game sound and music? I play with in-game sound, but not music. Personally. Which is why I always have to have an argument. Whenever I talk about gnomes and their squeaking, people will say, well, turn the game sounds off then. To which I have to reply, no. I shouldn't have to. They should just remove gnomes. He's got the elements, he doesn't need the hammer. Well, he's even lost the elements at times, hasn't he? You know, and supposedly his ability to wield the hammer was supposed to be linked to his abilities to commune with the spirits. It was all supposed to be the sort of same thing. And I know the Doomhammer, of course, came from Draenor originally. But when he went to Draenor, although alternate Draenor, granted, you know, it took him ages to be able to reach the spirits there as well. You know, he seems to just go crap, good, crap, good, crap, good all the time. Vol'jin's spirit will enhance his shamanic powers. Will they? I am actually quite curious, and very genuinely though, I am quite curious as to explore Vol'jin's story. Because I want to know what absolute horseshit of a reason they're going to come up with for justifying Vol'jin suggesting Sylvanas become war chief. I absolutely want to know what must be that it will either be really, really cunning, or it'll be the worst thing ever. Wasn't Agra pregnant? Where's his son? He does have a son. I've forgotten his name. His son did actually appear in the Legion Alpha. And it had a name. And I can't remember. But yeah, he has got his thing. Storm the elements, stop communing with Thrall. Garrosh did a ton of damage to the elements. They're literally working against themselves. Yeah, but isn't that the argument with elements? You know, that they do work against themselves. You know, when we talk about Titans ordering worlds, what they mean by ordering worlds is basically knocking elements on the heads and saying, behave yourselves. Because when the Titans came across a primal world, it was no different with Azeroth and Draenor, come to that, is what they found is elements raging, fighting wars against each other. That's, you know, that's what they were. And then the Titans beat them all up and locked them away. Feel like Vol'jin probably sees Sylvanas is lost and maybe thinks the only way for her to find herself is to lead the Horde. No, I don't know. That doesn't really tie in with what he said. Not strongly enough for me. I mean, granted, she wasn't up against much competition. You know, if you look at the other Horde leaders, I mean, Sourfang, I suppose, could have done, but he's not. I don't know that he's been a major enough character, unless you're actual. I don't know. In the game, anyway. Bane is just, again, it's been too peripheral. Obviously. I mean, Gordon Bennett. There was no one else, was there? Say the panda guy, but he wasn't invited to the funeral, well, quite. Well, hang on. There isn't even... Who's even supposed to be representing the Horde Pandaren? Because it was supposed to be that fella who was then rescued by the lass who joined the Alliance during Siege of Orgrimmar. So I don't actually know who speaks... Galliwick's no chance. I don't think he'd even want to be, because he'd have to, like, you know, he'd have to be just like Sylvanas sort of resents having to be in Orgrimmar all the time. He would resent having to keep being away from his money-making schemes all the time. Gee, that's it. Is he still supposed to be in charge then? Because wasn't he rescued by... I can't remember her name either, I don't care. But he was beaten up in Siege of Orgrimmar and then rescued by the one who joined the Alliance, who got pissed off with him when he blew up that hole in the tortoise. He'd have to make his taxes public. Well, he might not pay taxes. Maybe that's a perk of becoming war chief. Oh, America joke. Wow. I mean, people should make people's taxes should be a matter of public interest anyway. It's actually quite strange in countries like America and Britain where, you know, people just think it's the done thing to the finances are private. There are some countries where it's a matter of public record. I think there's at least one Scandinavian nation that I can't remember where, but I think one of them just to the east of me, where if you want to know what someone earns, you just go and look it up. Simple. And it means wages are a lot fairer. Because, you know, if your wages aren't secret, then your boss can't stiff you by paying two people doing the same job different amounts. By the end of BfA, Thrall will be the leader again. Sylvanas will realise her ways and step down. It is possible. It is possible. I mean, nothing's impossible. The thing is, though, where's she going to go? Lordaeron's a pile of rubble. So, is it Sweden? It may be Sweden. Sweden, don't get a big head. I don't know. But somewhere in Northern Europe, at least one country, you know, your finances are not secret. I mean, what you spend your money on is up to you, but what you earn is not secret. Oh, so it is Sweden. There you go. Thank you, Ghost Reactor. Hate how Blizzard keeps adding things to the lore, then sweeping them under the rug. Understand they can only do so many things at once, but It's been like 7 years some workers don't even have Tabard yet. Well, I mean, the mad thing about it is that Blizzard keeps saying, and there's no reason to disbelieve them, that they work out storylines years ahead. So that surely means they have a long time to think it through. But it doesn't seem that they do think it through, or that they're very, very fickle. Because they do, and even though, you know, they'll do a thing and people go, no, no, they explained it all. It makes no difference what piss poor explanation they put in. The fact of the matter is that they've changed something and they're trying to then make out, it's like a rubbish politician. They're changing their mind on something, then trying to make out that, no, this is the thing we intended all along. Do we think we'll get another raid report BfA? I'm becoming less and less sure of that fact. You know, I was utterly convinced of it back in September. Now, I'm thinking to myself, right, well, when's it got to come out? It's got to come out in April. Otherwise, what's the point? There's no point in bringing out anything after April. If it's not a raid anyway, other bits of minor content, sure. But there's no point in bringing out a raid after April, because then you're into summer, and then it's coming out after summer. Even a 3-man raid, you don't bring out 2 months before you're bringing the thing out. So it's got to be April. But nothing's on the PTR. And they haven't even said it's coming to the PTR. So I cannot, at the moment, see how they can be a raid. There could be world events that might take the form of world... Let's imagine some world bosses that randomly spawn in, say, Silithus or something. All right. But the pre-expansion patch is usually a month. Yes, it is indeed. Now, they did say, Alex Efrasiabi did say during that interview, that Forbes interview, that there's loads of stories still to be told in Legion. But, first of all, you know, he's not exactly understated. By loads, he might mean, you know, 2 quests. I don't know. But it's not quick coming. And there's nothing on the PTR. Nothing on the PTR suggests that there's nothing that they really need testing. If you were right about the AQ 2040 pre-expansion event, would I consider that a raid? It depends, doesn't it? You know, if they did just bring out AQ20, obviously it wouldn't actually be for 20. Oh, I don't know. Then all it would be is like a time walking type thing, wouldn't it? So no. A raid for me is where you've got the different modes. You've got LFR, normal, heroic, and mythic. So yeah, it's now looking, increasingly unlike. In fact, I can't see it. How long was, does anyone remember how long Trial of Valor was up on the PTR? Because Trial of Valor was a surprise raid. We didn't know about that when Legion first came out. Now, that may not have had that long on the PTR. So it doesn't make it impossible. I'm trying to think when Trial of Valor came out. I think it was November. And obviously the game didn't come out until 30th of August. Technically it was the 29th where I was, because they brought it out on the evening. But still, that meant Trial of Valor may only have had a month or 2 on the PTR. So if they made an announcement this week, say, and it went on the PTR next week, it would still be doable, a 3 or 4 boss raid. But, you know, just every week that it's not there, it just makes it less likely. So I'm almost at the point where I'm going to agree with what many other people have said in the past, that it's probably not going to happen. Loads of story left to tell, so it basically means there's 36 of the same story to tell. Well, okay, yes, it might mean that. But there is, I mean, there's also a certain tree that's got to catch fire. And there's an attack on Lordaeron that's got to happen. And there's other stuff. And that's not just the pre-expansion patch. Because, again, spoilery, I'm not going to say. But there was something said during a quest in the BfA Alpha that sort of suggests what the pre-expansion event's going to be, that doesn't include those two events that we know about. So it's quite likely. That being said, though, the attack on Lordaeron, they always say the cinematic takes place immediately before the expansion. So I don't know. Maybe that is going to be in the pre-expansion. Maybe there's just everything's going to be the pre-expansion patch. Maybe the pre-expansion patch is going to be 4 weeks, where every week they add another bit of story. So, like, the pre-expansion patch comes out, you get all your BfA abilities, you knacker your sword. The main story is dealing with Sargeras' sword. The second week, maybe it's the Horde set fire to a tree. And it's like, oh no, Night Elves and Worgen need new homes. I don't know where we're going to stuff them, by the way. I've had no inkling about that from the alpha. I don't really want them littering the place in Stormwind. But at the same time, we can't impose upon Ironforge because the dwarfs have already got those sponging gnomes there. We can't really ask them to take on 2 more races. So, I don't know. They don't want to go to the Exodar, surely, even though that's closer. Because that's just a crashed ship. Worgen probably get Gilneas back. Is there time? I mean, that's the sort of thing that might be possible, but you'd have to flesh that out properly. You can't just have them suddenly go, oh no, Danasis is on fire. Shall we go back to Gilneas and see, you know, if the coast is clear? Oh, go, but oh yeah, it's all deserted now. We'll stay here. I don't really see it being like that. Stormwind Park is no longer a viable option either. No, they keep building more Celia there. Just stay clear of the priest order hall, as the Shadow Priests were releasing about 50,000 old gods. No, surely not. The tree burning happened before the battle in the trailer. Yes, of course, because you know Anduin doesn't. We know that Sylvanas is the one that's going to be the aggressor in all this, because we got that from the book that was put back, presumably for rewriting certain sections, because they changed. Because that's another thing, you know, all this stuff about, you know, whenever they change something and then they explain it and people go, no, they explained it, they all knew what they were doing. You know, the novel, the publication date was announced and then they changed it. Then they changed it again. That would only happen if Blizzard had ordered a rewrite of some of it. There is no other reason why you would need to put back that. Because it was already written. The book was written. So, and it wouldn't have been a distribution issue or anything like that, or a publishing issue. You know, it would purely have been because someone's changed their mind about something at the last minute and a rewrite has been instigated. If we don't get Gilneas back now, we never will. I don't think that's true. Because wherever the Gilneans are going to end up, it's going to be as refugees again. That arguably could give them the impetus to want to take back Gilneas. So, you know, that could absolutely, you know, given that, because it's like this, Gilneans kicked out of Gilneas, then they've been kicked out of Danasis. That might be the trigger to get them to think, do you know what? You know, we keep getting pushed from pillar to post. We ought to just go back and retake our homeland and do a better bloody job than the gnomes did. Because now, if you think about it, the Alliance, 3 of its races are all refugees. That's going to be 3 Alliance races are refugees. Technically 4, because Void Elves already are. No, 5. Lightforged Draenei are as well. The majority of the Alliance races are refugees. We've got a faction of refugees. I've never even thought about that before. Everyone is. There's only humans and dwarves who are not. I'm right, aren't I? Those are the only ones that are not going to be refugees. There's no one else. Well, the Horde have got fewer refugees than we have. Tauren have got their own land. Orcs have got their own land. Trolls, all right, it's not much, but they've got their own place, sort of. You know, Blood Elves are still remaining in Silvermoon. And I know... This is ridiculous. I've not thought about this before. We've only got 2 Alliance races. They've got their own bloody home. Shit. Yeah, Horde are more settled than we are. Well, Orcs were refugees, but they have settled long enough ago that they're not. The current crop of Orcs are not refugees because they were born like on Azeroth, so, or many of them. The Draenei means exiled ones. The Draenei were refugees when they came into the game. They're refugees of Draenor. You know, their home is not an upside down rocket. That was basically always supposed to be a temporary measure. But yeah, the Horde have at least got Orcs, Trolls and Tauren that have their own place. I mean, it could be argued Goblins do too, because although technically they're refugees, nonetheless they've settled on Ashara, which no one else was really laying claim to. And if anyone was laying claim to it, they were probably scared off by the fact that the Goblins promptly blew it up. Supposedly, do you know, because that's the thing, the Goblins allegedly restructured Ashara to make it look like the symbol for the Horde, as if, you know, we're on your side, look what we've done here. No, it was to warn people off. So I actually don't think we can consider the Goblins to be refugees. They've got Ashara, that's theirs. Blood Elves have their own place. Silvermoon, yeah, Silvermoon's still going to be there. That's fine, they've got that. That's what I mean. The Horde have got far more settled races than the Alliance do. They can't fly there, but then they don't really care about flying, I don't think, as long as they get to sit by the Sunwell. So, yes. There's a video in that. Alliance takes... Yeah, but by the time Alliance take Lordaeron, it's going to be rubble. There's nothing there. Well, the direct portal to Silvermoon, it could be argued, might break. Portals have broken before. Like when they wanted to get rid of a load of portals in... I was going to say original Dalaran, but that's not true. Wrath Dalaran. Then they just used Deathwing as an excuse for it. Oh, Deathwing woke up, caused a load of trouble, and you know what? It broke most of the portals in Dalaran. I imagine it's the same thing. But Lordaeron, I think all that's realistically going to happen with Lordaeron is they're going to kick the Forsaken out of it. Like, you know, the actual city itself is going to need some rebuilding. It's already rubble. Well, no, there's structures there. It's just, it's past its best. I mean, even the throne room's intact. You know, oh, God. It is Terenas. His blood's still on the floor. How long ago was that blood spilt and it's still there? So it's still there. Just think of the added courage buff when you get taking back your home. It must be huge. Well, not if it's destroyed in the process. I mean, that's a bit like, you know, the civil war in Syria. Whoever wins at the end of it, it's going to be congratulations. You used to have a country, now you've got a desert. Thank Deathwing for that. Caused my mage to make a bunch of gold at the start of Kata. Oh, I see. It was the same... Hold on, what's this about a plague? What? If I missed something. Oh, Forsaken being kicked out worries you greatly for the other Horde races. Well, I mean, certainly the... yeah, that's a... yeah, where are the undead going to go? Because there'll be quite a lot of orcs that don't trust them after the Wrathgate. It's not that long ago, is it? Aren't most of the undead living in the sewers? Yes, but nonetheless, I would imagine they'd be collapsed. You're not really invading Lordaeron unless you actually keep the Forsaken out. That'll be the whole point of it. The Forsaken could not move into Silvermoon because this is what sometimes doesn't make sense about the various races in the Horde. The Blood Elves of Silvermoon do not like the undead. They, their attitude towards the undead is much the same as the humans' attitude towards the undead, really. Even though if they were sort of sat down and things were explained to them, they'd realise they couldn't really blame the Forsaken because no Forsaken caused either the attacks on Silvermoon or on Lordaeron originally. Nonetheless, they don't really trust them. So there is no way that they would just be able to settle in Silvermoon. Also, it wouldn't make sense for Blizzard to do that, because unless they're prepared to make flying a thing around those areas, that's like moving them to a zone that no one really wants to go to because there's no flying. Oh, Game of Thrones quote is that. He would see this country burn if he could be king of the ashes. I'm not familiar with Game of Thrones. The funny on the Alliance, to take back Lordaeron, then they drop play bombs on them and Sylvanas gets more undead. Yeah, well, that's an interesting one, of course, because Sylvanas has been watching. But she still can't use the plague openly. Because, just because she's war chief, she's not, any leader leads by consent. And she's not really going to have the consent of the other. And, in fact, you get from the book, she's having to do all she does, basically to keep the other Horde leaders in line, and on her side. The Blood Elves are very authoritarian, certainly, yes. But yeah, I don't see any way in which they would accept the Forsaken as refugees. No way at all. The whole point, you were left on no uncertain terms when you did the Blood Elf starting quest that the undead screwed you over big time. What if she turned all the other Horde leaders into undead? Well, there's still all the other Horde as well. The way you see it, the Blood Elves tolerate the undead because of Sylvanas, now that she's war chief. It still doesn't mean to say they'd want them in their city. I really don't think they'd be comfortable with undead in their city. If she cared about consent, she wouldn't have had Gallywix come and discuss what he found with the other Horde leaders instead of going back to a back room. I don't know about that. Well, I mean, you know, I've said before, I think the game is inherently racist because, you know, there is no other reason to restrict races to particular factions. It doesn't even make storyline sense because we know that different races of different factions will work together anyway on a personal level. But there you are. Some people just think it's an acceptable role-playing game situation. But I don't actually know, to be honest, I actually don't know where it comes from. Because you think back to the roots of Warcraft, all the people who made Warcraft and World of Warcraft, or the key ones, whenever they've done interviews, they talk about the fact that they played Dungeons and Dragons. It's not a thing in Dungeons and Dragons. You can have people of various different races playing together. Even when there's bad blood between some of the races in terms of the wider story, you can still have them play together. I actually don't know where this concept of having factions in a role-playing game purely along racial lines really comes from. Does it come from EverQuest? Why, was that a thing in EverQuest? I didn't play EverQuest. It would be ironic if it comes from another MMO. Because I've never really... The only other system, I suppose, where it's been... Obviously, Warhammer Fantasy Battle is a similar thing. But at the same time, enough of the different armies had similar races. Like, there were 2 human races. There were 3 elf races. You know, you had... eventually, you had 2 undead versions as well and stuff like that. The Nightborn, well, the Nightborn literally say you lesser races should obey your betters. No wonder they joined the Blood Elves. Well, they could have joined the Night Elves, but of course I think the idea is that Liadrin was quite close to whatever her face is, forgotten now. The first Arcanist. Why did Tolkien have to make elves Mary Sue? What is this Mary Sue thing? I keep hearing people referring to what is a Mary Sue? What the hell? I just thought it was a name. What's it actually mean? Unless it's hideously offensive, in which case I don't need to know. I don't know that racial lines is very strong in Tolkien. Because orcs, after all, are supposed to be twisted and corrupted. So, you know, that's why they obey that master. But the other races sort of band together. Oh, it's a perfect character. Well, no, they're not very perfect. I mean, I know if you just read Lord of the Rings or watch the films, it comes across that the elves are, you know, might consider themselves that. But they have a very, very checkered past if you read, like, the Silmarillion. You know, the elves caused basically most of the naughtiness in the world. I mean, Morgoth actually was at the head of it, but still, you know. If we had a Warcraft 4, we could have a new elf faction. Blood Elves, Nightborn, Dark Rangers. Well... Dark Rangers I see as more of a class choice rather than a whole race. Yeah, that's what I mean, Kisasha. I've heard people refer to Ray as an example of a race, and I thought, what the hell? I don't even know what that means. But no, I have never heard of any such reference to that until literally until I started seeing people refer to Rey from Star Wars as that. And it's like, what? What? I don't know. I've never heard of it. I'm going to try and restart my BattleNet again. This could have been the chance to introduce Kulturan and Magar orcs of some time to the other faction, just to break the divide. I wonder, you know, with that, because I think Kulturan humans would be the allied race for Alliance. So basically, the next 4 allied races, as we think, we know Dark-Iron Dwarfs and we know Zandalari Trolls. And then, obviously, Draenor Orcs, you know, surely. And presumably, this is only presumably, it's pure guesswork, Kulturan humans. Now, what is strange about that? It would seem strange to me to release Zandalari Trolls with Dark-Iron Dwarfs, because a lot of people have already noted, what have Dark-Iron Dwarfs got to do with the new content? Not a lot, basically. Now, let's say they also introduce Draenor Orcs, and just for the sake of argument, Kulturan humans. Then again, what have Draenor Orcs got to do with the new content? Sod all. So maybe, just maybe, the Kulturan humans and Draenor Orcs will also come out when it goes live. And then it makes more sense, because then you've got Dark-Iron Dwarfs Draenor Orcs, all right, which are the two things that, you know, you could do with pre-BfA content. Maybe they come out with the pre-expansion patch, and then maybe it's Zandalari Trolls, rather than being paired with Dark-Iron Dwarfs, maybe instead they're paired with Kulturan humans, which actually makes more sense. I don't know if that is the plan, but it would make more sense to me. Do I think Liadrin would be a great leader for the Blood Elves' new queen? Well, she's a paladin, of course. Goes without saying. Give Horde, human and orcs to ally. No, 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 no. Allow all races to be any faction, yes. But if they're going to stick to these racial lines, it makes no sense, none at all, to have orc alliance orcs. Because of all the races, you know, those 3 races of orcs, trolls, and, well, not so much trolls, but orcs and Tauren especially, those are the races that have the most togetherness about them. You know, I know obviously there was a little bit of orc against orc action with Siege of Orgrimmar, because Garrosh went a bit off the deep end. But apart from that, basically, you can't imagine them permanently being on opposite sides. So, no. And I don't understand why anyone ever entertained the idea, unless it was just literally to try and, you know, get something go viral, because it was always a nonsense. I want to point out that Horde are getting upright trolls, upright orcs, and possibly upright undead. Alliance doesn't appear to be getting many new options. Well, it doesn't appear to be doesn't mean to say not do it. They just haven't said anything yet. You were hoping that BfA would have some storyline or arc that explains why Dark-Iron Dwarfs are now allied. Well, there will have to be. By definition, there would have to be, because you have all those things with all the allied races. It's just we don't know what form it's going to take. And I don't know when we'll find out, because, for example, they're not available to test in the alpha yet. You think Alliance should have Gelbin as their leader? Who the hell is Gelbin? Who's Gelbin? Could see Tauren go in Alliance because Night Elves and Bane is friends with Anduin. Yeah, but I mean, But at the same time, I think someone, when I did a video recently, someone actually replied, which made a lot of sense, that Taurens still have that lifelong bond with the Orcs because of Thrall helping them out. So that's you can sort of see the Taurens as being serious enough that they would always side with the Orcs. Just because of that. Same with Vol'jin's trolls, just to honour. Even though the leaders of the Tauren trolls at the time have died, that the whole race would still sort of honour that allegiance. Right, I'm going to have to look it up myself. I think I'm going to have to look it up myself. Who the hell is Galvin? Oh, hell no. No, what the hell? No. That, you know, that's ridiculous. No one is going to take him seriously. Absolute nonsense. He can't even take back his own city. How is someone like... the only person that could ever head the Alliance are what we now know is one of the two races, the only two races, that's actually capable of holding on to their own kingdom. None of the others are capable. And the gnomes were the first refugees. They were the original refugees. Therefore, the ones who've been refugees for longest. Tauren have blood ties with Thrall in the Horde. Well, is it specifically with Thrall? Or is it with his Horde? Because although he was given the orders at the time, it was the Horde that saved them, not just Thrall on his own. The Draenei took back their home, though. Okay, where is it? Where is their home? Because the last I saw, it disappeared into a little point of light. And given that the whole point of it was that they have... the whole point of the whole Argus storyline was that Argus has basically been ripped open. And we've destroyed the soul of Argus and imprisoned Sargeras in it. So it's basically a Titan prison now, that whole world. Or that whole lump of rock that used to be a world. So they haven't freed anything. All they've done is the few remaining Draenei that were ever there, they've also been made refugees. Hence why we've got the Lightforged Draenei now. Didn't the Horde burn Stormwind twice? We have had a couple of little incidents, yes. I'm not sure that they specifically burned it twice. But I suppose it depends. But they certainly completely flattened it once. It depends on what you argue in terms of the first one. But they did completely ruffle stomp it when everyone then had to flee to Lordaeron, and then the Alliance of Lordaeron was established. But the point is that we built it back. Right? Now, the Worgen, they haven't even attempted to retake Gilneas. I mean, it's possible, but they haven't as yet even attempted it. The Gnomes have attempted to take back Nomrigon, and all they've actually done is turn what was a disaster into an environmental disaster. The Draenei have basically pissed their world away. For good, yeah, they've sacrificed it, fair enough. Noble sacrifice. But nonetheless, it's gone. Night Elves, what are they going to do? Plant another tree? That might take a while. So they're knackered. Everyone's knackered. There's only humans and dwarfs left. That's it. That's all they've got left. It feels like orcs are becoming a minority in their own lands. They don't have any own land. They have, you know, they have Durotar. That's it. That's their land. And it's still a majority of orcs in Durotar. The Night Elves can go to the Emerald Dream. They're not all druids. And even then, they don't actually really go into the Emerald Dream. Their bodies are still left behind in the barrows, aren't they? You know, they don't actually physically go into the Emerald Dream. I also don't know what the Emerald Dream's supposed to really be anymore. Because that's something else that keeps changing. Like at the end of Cataclysm, the dragons were supposed to be like giving up all their powers. Well, that didn't seem to happen. But I don't actually know what the state of the Emerald Dream is anymore. Like, there's presumably got to be a new head of the Green Dragonflight for a start. Don't know who that's supposed to be. Humans aren't really a good case either. What for? We've at least managed to get our... We built it back, and we built it back better. And then, yes, Deathwing stomped it. And then we built it back again. It's all fine. Stormwind's fine. It's bigger, in fact. It's bigger than it used to be. About Gilneas, you heard that they've retaken Gilneas in the process of cleansing it from the Blight. They just have to purge the Forsaken from Lordaeron. Well, okay. We shall see. Maybe. In which case, maybe the Worgen can join the races that actually have their own home. But at the same time, I doubt that's going to happen that quickly. How about the Horde just rule the Alliance because they're too weak? They're just far too weak. That's all there is to it. Kage, you say they gave up their immortality, not their powers. That's not what they said. They said they'd given up, they'd expended their powers, is what Alex Strasser said. And you could see with Nosdormu and his sand coming out of his bloody thing as well. I mean, it clearly hasn't happened. Hi, Nico. He's coming in late. What about the large population of displaced Lordaeron humans? They weren't really displaced. They either went to Stormwind or they became Forsaken. So... because all the other human kingdoms have basically fallen under, haven't they? I'm still... Why is no one saying anything about the Alpha Realms being down? What the hell? I guess Pandalore is done now. I would think so, wouldn't you? I'm just going to check. Just in case it was just brought down for something and has been gone back up. Hasn't been updated in mod. Well, has it? Well, you had the monk quests, the monk order hall. That was sort of Pandalore. But beyond that, no, I don't think there's... But there's not really been any cause for it either. Obviously, it wouldn't have made any sense to expand it in Warlords of Draenor. It hasn't made any sense to expand it in Legion either. Battle for Azeroth, anything goes really, doesn't it? Who knows in Battle for Azeroth. That being said... I mean, there's various... I don't know what all the reasons are for the... apparent unpopularity of MOP, because I thought it was a really good expansion, but where people do seem to have issues with it, it seems to be not so much the content of the expansion, it always seems to be the pandas essentially to blame. So for that reason, and if Blizzard came to that same conclusion, it might well be that they don't want to cause trouble by expanding on what they figured was an unpopular decision in the first place. I mean, they didn't even feature, did they, in the cinematic? I don't think they did. Although it would be difficult, wouldn't it? Because you'd have to have them featured on both sides if you did, given that they're both Horde and Alliance. Pandaren exists has now been retconned. No, no. I like my Pandaren. The Pandaren have the best two-handed weapon stance in the game. So my Pandaren Fury Warrior, even though I don't really play it, I absolutely, or even Arms Warrior, it makes no difference. As long as they're holding a two-hander. If I could have if Pandaren Paladins were a thing, I would have to seriously consider. I would at least make a Pandaren Paladin. Whether I would make my main the Pandaren, I would have to seriously consider it. But, you know, I mean, I thought it was very good, and I quite like the Pandaren. I thought it was a nice change of pace, a nice new race with proper lore behind it, and a new storyline. And then it was very, very poorly received for whatever reason. And then we had WoD, which is where, okay, so you don't like new lore, so here's all the old lore, all back at once, alternate universe, so it can all come back to life. Here you go. And people loved it, absolutely loved it. Of course, the expansion itself they didn't love so much, but you know, that's just because there was no content. Oh no, what's happened there? Alternate universe is always a bad idea. It's quite tricky. There's always unsatisfactory loose ends, and alternate universe with like time travel. I mean, you get away with it in Back to the Future, and you get away with it sometimes in Doctor Who, but you know, WoW should never have meddled in that sort of thing. I mean, even doing the time travel thing with the Caverns of Time was a little bit dicey. But, you know, you just get away with it because all it was a dungeon at the end of the day. And a raid in the case of Cataclysm, Dragon Soul. But by and large, yes. I mean, that's what put me off. As soon as I heard that, I was like, oh, I'm not going to like this. Obviously, that I enjoyed the leveling side of it. Because there's all sorts of questions from that alternate universe now. We still technically have a link to that alternate universe as far as I know. I don't know what happened storyline with the Dark Portal anymore. Because... and that's another thing. That's another question to answer. Right, okay. Good point. So, at the moment, you go to the Dark Portal. That is a link to the alternate Draenor. Not Outland, the alternate Draenor. Now, we can get to Draenor via either portals or by going back in time in Blasted Lands by talking to that dragon. So, when the Draenor orcs come over to us, are they going to be Outland Draenor orcs, or are they going to be alternative reality Draenor orcs? From WoD? Which bloody orcs is it even? Because in theory, as far as the gameplay is concerned, as far as the storyline is concerned, surely we no longer, or do we have a link with Outland? In which case, is it really just supposed to be that pissy little portal in the Mage Tower in Stormwind or in Orgrimmar? Because not in the Blasted Lands anymore. That dark portal links with alternate Draenor. Alternative Outlands future orcs. God, no. But I would, you know, everyone's talking about Draenor orcs. We don't know which Draenor orcs we're even talking about, do we? Is it alternate orcs? Or is it, you know, is it Outland orcs? I don't know. From the jokes for the new orcs, it will be the alternate universe orcs. They make a joke about our character leaving a garrison in Frostfire. Oh, has it? Oh, sorry, I haven't seen that then. So they've already data mined some dialogue from them, have they? Is it? Okay. I did not know that. I didn't even know there was anything data mined on them. I need to find some time to read up on some more stuff, it looks like. I do when I get a chance. I get a lot of them. You wanted Hellfire Orcs. Well, maybe that'll be for the future then. I mean, it's easy enough to put all of these things in. It would have been even easier if they just had them as sub-race options. I don't know what possessed them to go for allied races. You know, sub-races could have been just as useful in terms of like getting people excited about, you know, changing to various things without the hassle of having to come up with new racials. Not that I feel that they're even pretending to tune them. But there you go. Do enough players play Orc to justify having 3 of them? Well, it could be argued that there would be more people playing Orcs if there were 3 of them. Because maybe someone who doesn't like the Orcs that we have now and won't like the brown Orcs might like the red Orcs. Too many races going to cause balance issues for racials and stuff. Well, that's already out. I mean, that's already done. You know, to hell with it now, to be honest. Because they've already done that. I mean, I agree they should just get rid of gameplay affecting racials. Certainly the very powerful ones. I don't mind the odd. I don't mind ones that just like, you know, you have 1% resistance to a particular type of damage, or maybe even something like, you know, the human racial where it's like an extra amount of particular stats. That sort of thing is okay. Once it does something though, then it's a different matter. So Arcane Torrent, for example, with the Interrupt. I know they're nerfing it, but that's still a bit of a thing. You've just said there about Kill Jaden with the Goblins. You know, obviously that was a bit of an issue as well. Those sort of things. Because there are going to be situations on raids when it suddenly becomes bloody useful to have it. Whereas when it's a stat, all right, technically one race might be better than another, but it's not by a huge amount. Like 1% extra crit or something. Well, I mean, it's nice if crit is your best start, but at the same time, you know, it's not game breaking as such. You suspect upright Orcs alone will be a draw. I'm not sure I would really trust an upright Orc. I think if I was a Horde player and had some Orc characters, which I was a Horde player I probably would, because I think Orcs are very good for quite a few classes. I quite like the look of Orc like warriors. When I made a Death Knight, when I actually did come back and play casually a bit, that was an Orc as well. Orc Shaman. Orc Warlock, you know, although Undead Warlock's good too. So there's a few characters I would have as an Orc. I'm not sure I would really want any of them to be upright. I think I would prefer the others, the ones we have now. What do I think the additional Alliance allied race will be beside Kulturans? Well, at the moment, I can't think of any. Because although I threatened Leper Gnomes, I was rather hoping the Horde would get those. I mean, Leper Gnomes could be a thing. Sort of. I'm not sure it would make a lot of sense, but then gnomes don't make a lot of sense. So who knows? Yeah, but Wilton, it's just not for me. I know, I mean, it's a nice option to have, don't get me wrong. If people want that, and that's fine. It's just, I think if I was making Horde characters, I wouldn't really like the upright ones. Oh, yes, and Thrall, yeah. Yeah, that's a good point, Serial Prime. Thrall, as soon as he learned to stand upright, is when someone removed his balls. And maybe that's why Orcs hunch over to protect their balls, because as soon as they stand upright, someone steals them. Because, you know, he was a complete badass when he used to hunch, and now that he doesn't, he's weak. He even let us take his hammer. How pathetic. Couldn't even beat up Garrosh without crushing him. with that rock hand. Let's just get to where we're going. Vulpera will not even be a playable race. They will certainly not be paladins, but they will most definitely, without question, not even be a playable race. That's all there is to it. What's that? Thrall? Because he took off his armour and put on a robe. Well, possibly. We don't know what's under that robe. I mean, you might have some pretty thinking. Wishful thinking. No, it's not wishful thinking. There are no Vulpera playable characters. It's not a thing. I don't put money on anything. See, as soon as you understand that Blizzard allowed playable gnomes, at that point, there is no race that can be more ridiculous. So you can't rule anything out. So, of course, I'm not going to put money on it. But at the same time, I'm quite sure it's not in their plans. But then, as we've already seen, what their plans are one day can change quite rapidly the next. But there you are. Neither was classic. What was classic? Sorry, what? What do you mean neither was classic? Oh, in Blizzard's plans? No, this is true. Do I have any idea how much money Blizzard could make off race change if they added Vulpera? There are, if they want to make money, there are better ways of making money. Now, I have to concede that I think the whole point of allied races is just to make money. From a game, like if the developers were just allowed to just do what they wanted to make the game really awesome, I don't think allied races would be a thing. I think those races would be a thing, but I think they would be as sub-races and just be cosmetic choices for people to have more choice with their character. I think the reason they've made them a separate race is specifically to make money, and as part of making money, it can't be just cosmetic. For some people, they will pay just for the cosmetic, sure, but racials has to factor in there, and I think that's the only reason we have gameplay affecting racials, so that they can make money from race changes. Absolutely. Do I think there's a strong story narrative leaning towards Horde this expansion? No, I don't. It's true that the Horde quests that I've done so far, the Horde ones have been weightier than the Alliance ones. The Alliance quest lines have just been fairly bog standard. You know, your job really going to Kulturas is to try and persuade Kulturas to rejoin the Alliance. Except that's not even true, because actually that's Jaina's job. So you're just going there to smooth over everyone. Whereas the Horde quests have some serious lore implications. So that is true. And it is possible that it will be, the more interesting storyline will be on the Horde side. But I think it's too early to say that that's definitely true. I would just say that it seems weightier. The Horde questline seem weightier at the moment. %90 of the players don't care about racials. It might not be as much as 90%, but they might not care. No, I might agree that they don't care about racials, but you only need a lot of people to care about racials, and then other people care about going on the faction that is the most populous. And then it just goes from there. But also, 90% of players don't pay for race changes either. Which is why it baffles me, it completely baffles me, why Blizzard try and make their money out of realm changes and race changes when they know only the most dedicated players will even pay for those things. The others will just stop playing the game. If they get to a point where to continue playing the game, in the way they would like necessitates not so much a race change, that's silly, but a realm or faction change or both, they're not going to pay it. So they're just going to stop playing the game. Whereas if Blizzard were to, like I keep saying, I know some people are going to go, no, don't do that, don't like it. All right, fine. But if they were to just increase the number of pets and mounts they have on the online store, then they would actually make them cheaper. They're too expensive. Then they would make, I think they would make more money, because that appeals to a larger proportion of the player base. And also, it's economies of scale. Like, it doesn't cost them much more to get an artist to make a mount or a pet than it does to set up a system to allow for, and I know it largely runs itself, but faction realm changes, but it doesn't pay that, you know, for the cost of what an artist can do for you in a whole year in terms of mounts and pets. You could easily make that money back, and well more, by just selling them on the online store. You want to pay for a race change for the 20k DPS increase. Well, it might not be 20k DPS by the time it goes live, because squish, big old squish. You're not going to be doing 20k DPS. In fact, let me just quickly look up these logs. What damage was I doing? I forgot. It was a small number, though. Now, granted, they haven't done any tuning, but if you ignore that Beastmaster who was basically cheating, I did do more damage than anyone else. Oh no, I need to log in. Ah, balls. How do I bloody log in? Trying to remember how to, I very rarely upload logs, so I always forget how to do it. There we go. I have to log in via Battle.net. Where's my logs? Let's have a look here. So I did on one boss, which actually only lasted 47 seconds. Let's see if we can find a boss that lasted a bit longer. Oh no, that one lasted forever. All right, 1.5 minutes, and I did 1,600 DPS. Am I looking forward to the Seething Shore Battleground coming tomorrow? No, it's PvP. I might not even do it. Can't be asked. Oh, you still will probably say all of your mages were Nightborn day one. Quite a lot of our raid was Void Elf on day one. Not all of them, though. Only one mage did, and it was not the gnome mage. I don't know what he's playing at. Both of our monks went Void Elf, though. It's probably someone else as well. Because I think it's quite cunning that Void Elves can basically play almost, not quite, but almost any race that gnomes can. So I approve of Void Elves because it's something to try and persuade some gnomes to roll to a cooler looking race. Well, they can hardly go wrong. What will happen with low level when scaling hits? Well, scaling's already hit for low level. But if in terms of the squish, you mean? Pretty much what's happened now. You know, I mean, scaling now is not perfect. It doesn't scale perfectly because there's too many levels to do it. But we'll have to wait and see, I guess. I don't think it will get any better. I mean, at the end of the day, with leveling now, with having the zone scaling, as long as you're able to kill stuff, then it doesn't really matter whether it scales smoothly, I suppose. As long as you don't suddenly start to find yourself having real trouble, which I gather has been the case in a couple of little bits. But I can't speak from experience on that one. Speaking of DPS, your DPS fluctuates so uncontrollably, the raid leader is asking me. Well. But yeah, coming back to the thing there, 20k DPS in BfA, there will be no such thing because you're not going to do 20k DPS. Even in terms of your total DPS. Or at least not for a little while anyway. But it may well have an effect because, you know, the item level squish will compact it more surely because I'm trying to think now. Basically, item level is being reduced to about a third of what it currently is. Well, less than that, really. Because I think... I'm trying to think... Basically, the gear I started off in was about 185 and it was round about Mythic Nighthold gear. Or something like that. I can't remember now, and unfortunately, as I say, the Alpha Realms have been brought down. But as yet, there's nothing being downloaded. Gnomes are not the best for any class. There you go. Goblins far superior. Haste and a movement speed. Humans get a haste bonus anyway. What are you on about? No, it's still down. How odd. So I don't really know where the idea that gnomes would be best, because you get that from humans and you get other stat bonuses as well. Problem with item level again. Well, for leveling maybe, but at level cap it should make it better actually, because it means you don't suddenly start outpacing it. Because it was a bit of a problem. Well, actually, no, even for leveling. Because I remember it got a bit of a problem when you'd suddenly level, you get through Wrath stuff, and then you do Cataclysm stuff and you get your head kicked in unless you had heirloom gear. Actually, even if you had heirloom gear. Because until you got another level, it was stuck on Wrath level 80 as opposed to Cataclysm level 80. They have more mana, which is nice for Arcane. No. You can get more mana by asking Greater Blessing of Wisdom. But Greater Blessing of Wisdom is not for gnomes. In this expansion we were 835 LFR to 880 Mythic. And now it's 915 LFR, 960 Mythic. Well, that's the same gap. Obviously, it'll be a small, because everything's been compacted. Never understood the idea of item levels or damage numbers getting too high. Well, there was one bit where the game couldn't handle it. That's why Garrosh had to heal up during the Garrosh fight in Siege of Orgrimmar, because the game couldn't cope with the numbers. Now, of course, it can. Ironically, they've made it be able to cope with the numbers. I mean, Blizzard, to be fair, they were... Because that's... I mean, this squish is something that they've changed their mind on. There did come a point where they were saying that as long as the game can handle it, they're okay with the inflated numbers, because all you have to do is, first of all, you put a K after it, and then an M, and then so on, and you just keep increasing it. As long as the number you've got is just a few significant figures, you can then put a suffix on the end of it to indicate, you know, the orders of magnitude. But obviously they've since changed their mind. I mean, item level... you know... I think it just puts some people off. I think there's more people get put off by the really big numbers. And it's true that if the game can handle it, then there's no practical reason why they can't just keep having the numbers go up. But I just think it puts people off. I think Blizzard have obviously come to a similar conclusion. Unless they eliminate all the raid difficulties, the squish will be cycling. Well, item level will still... There will still be inflation, and it's not going to improve because of all those different raid things. But it won't be the same gap. It'll be a much smaller gap. You know, like, for example, the difference between LFR and normal might be 5 item levels, because 5 item levels will actually be significant. They never added a K or M in the combat text or anything. Oh, well, I can't talk about that because I never use default Blizzard UI, and I haven't done for years. So mine did. But Blizzard's own may not have done, and I wouldn't have noticed. Funny how you had the Battlegrounds weekly event just before the Seething Shore, did you? Oh, that's bad luck. Which buffs do Rets go for on Argus? Crit and Mastery. Ideally Crit and Mastery, because the problem is with haste, you'll just end up with more than 100% haste. So that's largely wasted. But on Mythic, even though I still try and go for Crit Mastery, it's considered not necessarily a terrible idea to go for haste versatility, because the versatility might keep you alive. At the same time, so far as we've progressed on it, I haven't really had a major problem. I think I've only died once before a wipe was called. I'm not saying Divine Intervention hasn't procced the odd time, though. But it mostly doesn't. Mostly I have to cancel my bubble when we're wiping. As a shadow priest between all the haste and dots, you have to turn off combat text or it's insane. Well, this was exactly the reason why I quite liked mixed scrolling battle text, because you can put it all out at the sides. I mean, I wouldn't have it at all, but when you're streaming, people go, I want to see numbers. Or even when I just did videos, I want to see the numbers. So I got mixed scrolling battle text and put it at the sides. Unfortunately, that add-on's no longer supported, so I'm now using faceplate scrolling combat text. But I haven't actually... Do you know what? I've had it for a while now, and I haven't actually looked at the options in terms of customizing it. So it's just default options at the moment. But it seems to be a lot less annoying than the default one, so I've largely just left it. But at some point, I need to remember to just have a look, have a little look under the bonnet and see if I can monkey about with it a bit. There's an add-on you saw that puts combat text over each enemy's nameplate. Oh, God, that would be awful, wouldn't it? That'd be my idea of hell, and I'm not even a multi-dotter. Imagine you just fire a Divine Storm through that lot. Oh, God. I mean, because that was always what used to get me. When you see people in an AoE situation like the raiding, and there's just numbers flying everywhere. I'm just thinking, you can't see anything. It's particularly bad when you're watching someone else raid, and they've got like boss mod timers, and you can't see them because of the battle text over them. Well, indeed, yeah. If you're going to put anything above enemy health bars, it wants to be presumably debuffs. And maybe even cast bars. But anyway, we've been going on for quite a bit. That's like half an hour over again. So I'll give it a couple of more minutes in case people want to say a last little thing. And then I'll call it a day here. I'll get it up on YouTube. And there was something I was going to do. We were talking about something earlier on that I was thinking I might do a video on. I'll have a think about that. Oh, I remember what it is now. The boss's health bar should be your DPS meter. Well, I certainly don't have my DPS meter showing when I'm progressing. Aggro markers, certainly, yes. Quite useful. Actually, when we were doing Argus yesterday, just to finish off, Mythic Argus, our Feral Druid kept having problems, and it turned out it was some nameplate add-on that was causing the issue. I can't remember the name of it now. So basically it was an add-on issue, and he's got rid of that, and it's sorted itself out now. But yes, okay, I'm going to call it an end there. Thanks very much for coming on, everyone. Obviously, if we do get a build going live tonight, it looks like it'll come too late for me to actually go on and see about it. But I will, depending on exactly when anything comes out, because it's not even downloaded at the moment. But I'll try and keep you updated with that. But I don't remember what it was called, sorry. But yeah, thanks for coming on. And until next time, I shall see you later.